What's up, Canes fans? This is the Canes Insight Daily Podcast. Lot to talk about today. Henry Parrish has entered the transfer portal. Hit that yesterday on the bank. We'll talk about the impact of that move. Also, spring practice. I was out there. I'll break down some of the standouts. Loaded show today. First, want to talk about our friends at Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. You get in a crash, someone you care about gets in a crash, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Don't mess around. Don't lose the case of your life because you went with a friend of a friend of a friend. Call Anijar and Levine, 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Deal with the absolute best. Take back control of your life. Also want to shout out Caneswear, caneswear.com. Anything you want Miami sports related, whether it's Heat, Hurricanes, Panthers, Dolphins, you name it, you can get it there. It is Miami sports fans heaven. Again, browse the website if you're out of town, caneswear.com. Shipping is super easy and free. Caneswear.com. And if you're local, go to the store. Best service in town. All right. So, story of the day. Henry Parrish, the leading rusher for the Miami Hurricanes, has decided to transfer out. He's entering the portal. He transferred in. Now he's transferring out. My suspicion, strong suspicion, is that he's going to be transferring right back to where he transferred from, the Ole Miss Rebels. Kevin Smith, the coach that recruited him to Ole Miss, came to Miami, brought him here. Kevin Smith's back at Ole Miss. I suspect he will take Henry Parrish back there. Was there tampering involved? I don't know. Let people fill in the blanks on that one. Tough loss, in my opinion, for the Canes. This is somebody who wasn't the most spectacular player, but I think was somewhat underrated as a player. You're talking about 625 yards, led the team, 6.3 yards a carry. So he was very efficient as a runner. Now, that 6.3 yards a carry didn't involve 60-yard touchdowns and game-breaking plays, just a lot of 8, 10-yard runs to boost up that yards per carry and not a lot of losses because he was so slippery. So was he the franchise back? Was he Clint Portis or anything like that? No. But he was a very useful back. That's why Ole Miss, which is a top 10 team, is taking him back happily. At the same time, this is not unexpected for the Canes. You heard me on the podcast yesterday saying Miami is going to be aggressive in pursuing help in the portal at running back. Didn't want to let the cat out of the bag with this one just in case Parrish changed his mind, but I think most people knew he was out. So that still holds true. Miami is going to aggressively pursue a running back in the portal. I expect them to aim high and look for an impact-type player. Mark Fletcher coming back from the foot injury. Mario said today he expects him back in the summer. Also hyped up Jordan Lyle. I was at practice, saw Jordan Lyle walking around. He looked very big, bigger than I thought. Nice size back. Going to give you at least what Parrish gave you from a physical standpoint. Probably he's stronger. He'll bounce off more tackles, but he's not like a 5'8", 5'9" type of back. He's a good, solid. He's not Mark Fletcher, but he's a good, solid back that can carry the load, or at least be part of a unit that, he's getting the ball in a featured role as opposed to sort of a specialty change of pace back. He's a real running back. Jordan Lyle, who will arrive in summer. Talked about Chris Wheatley-Humphrey a lot in this podcast. He's more of your change of pace back, looking good, but I don't know if he's a this-year guy. I think it's going to be Fletcher whenever he's ready to come back from that foot injury. Foot injuries are tricky. Got to be careful with that. Lyle, instant coffee. He'll play right away. And then A.J. Allen will be back, who's been out for spring. This is the transfer from Nebraska who played last year. You saw him hurdle a guy on a long touchdown. Had some nice moments. Wasn't spectacular, but was solid. So those are the three names I think you'd keep an eye on running back, and then they're going to look to add an impact portal guy. Miami has not had, at least in this era of Cristobal, a running back that really matched what you had on the offensive line this year. Premium offensive line, but you haven't had that first or second round running back. They'd love to add a guy like that. No guarantee that guy is going to come available. The portal is a tricky thing, but that is what they're looking for. I also forgot to mention a running back, Chris Johnson, who we'll be talking about a little later as a standout from practice. But with Parrish, again, I think it was just a situation where the coach that trusted him left, NIL, the fact that Miami wanted Parrish back. He's a good player, but they see the same thing everybody else, which is, we need to get to a certain standard at running back that is elite. And Parrish is a good player. Anyone would have loved to have him. Ole Miss is lucky to have him. The hope is we can get to that elite standard at back at the Miami Hurricanes to match what you have on the offensive line. But Wish Parrish well. He's someone I've liked since high school. I remember when it was him, Don Chaney, and Jalen Knighton. I felt he was the best back of the three, most productive back. And I think in college, he's proven to be the best back, despite not having the prototype measurables. Tough guy, always played hard. So a lot of respect for Henry Parrish, and he's going to be a good player in the SEC, which he already was before he transferred over. Just to put a bow on the Henry Parrish discussion, we'll kick it to Mario Cristobal, who had some comments on his departure and the running back room after practice today.
Yeah, well, it's always been a very competitive room. We start a lot of guys. Henry will not be with the program anymore. Okay, he'll go in the portal, and look, we wish him the best. It's best for him, and it's best for the University of Miami for him to move on. And he's, again, thankful for his contribution here, and wish him the very, very best. Tremonte certainly is a guy that is getting better, coming off of a major injury. Chris Johnson has had a great spring. A.J. Allen is on the mend. He'll be back. Chris Wheatley-Humphrey looks really good. And, we signed a guy who's the top back in the country on paper, but he was, a guy that was on our board as a top guy in the country as well. And he has run a system that's similar to ours. So we feel really good about the competitive nature of that room, the caliber of coaching that they're getting, and what we have heading into the season.
So there you have it. Hopefully Mark Fletcher comes back soon from that foot injury. Again, foot injuries are weird. We'll see what happens. But again, I expect Miami to aim high at the running back position, just like they aimed high at the quarterback position, landed a premier guy that will play in the NFL. I expect the same kind of effort at the running back position to pair with the young guys they have. Interesting position change at practice today. Robbie Washington, somebody who, if you were listening to The Bank or reading The Bank going back a year ago, I mentioned the Miami coaches felt that this guy could be a premier cornerback. I agree with that assessment. 5'11", strong, very tough, extremely good change of direction, very fast, just a ball player, somebody who I think is a good receiver, a guy who can run with the ball also is kind of like a quasi running back, kick returner, all those things, but it's just a really, really good athlete that we need on the defensive side of the ball. We need more playmakers, in my opinion, at the corner position. Your Phillip Buchanans, guys that can not only make plays on defense, but turn that into six. That's what Miami's built on. I think Robbie Washington has that type of talent. I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick like Phillip Buchanan or anything like that, but I think he's that kind of guy that you need more of them on the defensive side of the ball when they're tough, like he is. Today at practice, he was playing with the corners, not only with the corners, also playing with the receivers and returning. So he did all three today and looked good at all three. Looked good in the one-on-ones at corner, caught a long touchdown at receiver, from what I'm told, later in the practice, and looked, really natural returner. You saw him do some of that in high school. So I think he's a guy you sell him on being an athlete, being an impact player in multiple facets, and then hopefully taking that opportunity in the cornerback room to give that room something it doesn't have. There's some athletes at receiver that might be around his size. There's nobody in the cornerback room that has his kind of natural athletic ability and playmaking. Plus, he's a tough guy. So we'll kick it to Mario Cristobal talking about Robbie Washington playing corner.
Well, Robbie's had a really good spring at wide receiver. And for us, this is a really good time to take certain guys and experiment and see if there's maybe opportunities for them. Maybe we can use your skill set to help the team in a certain way. And he's a guy he's a team guy first. So it's something that we'll experiment throughout the course of spring football. He's just really good. He's a natural athlete. He does a lot of things. And I mean, anytime we could buy a guy reps, you saw guys at different positions, at tight end, at running back, at defensive ends. We're going to keep doing that.
You notice Mario focusing in on the athletic ability. That's what Miami is at its best, when you have some of your best athletes on defense. That's what Jimmy Johnson preached. Get your best athletes on defense. We've had corners that don't play other positions for a long time. When was the last time we've had corners that were dynamic? It's just been a while. I think that is something that you want to see. And I think Robbie Washington, if he embraces this move, could really be that kind of player for us at a needed position. Some other standouts from practice. Sorry if I'm a broken record. Elijah Lofton, just an unbelievable football player. Looks like, a fullback, maybe a walk-on defensive lineman. He doesn't look the part at all. But just when the pads come on and when the play starts and the whistle blows, the guy's unbelievable. You saw that in high school. You've seen that consistently in spring. We've talked about Elijah Lofton constantly. Made a one-handed catch today over the defender. Great natural hands on top of the ability to run with the ball. He's a running back by trade in terms of what he did in high school. Was a halfback, scored multiple touchdowns against Central, but he also lined up wide. You saw that today with the one-handed catch. Plus, he can block. We talked about it every week. Almost every single practice podcast is for a reason. This guy's consistently making plays, and I'd be shocked if he doesn't play once the season starts. Also, special teams. You're talking about punt protector, roles like that. I think that's where you're going to see Elijah Lofton get a lot of burn on top of what he can do with the offense, because he's a very strong guy. I'm told he's one of the strongest guys in the weight room on the entire team as a true freshman, coming out of Gorman, which is an outstanding program, outstanding weight program. By the way, shout out to Hyperfit Miami Beach, the best gym in Miami, for this free shirt. Appreciate you guys. But yeah, Lofton's a beast in the weight room. And I think all of those different skills and the intelligence and the toughness and the instincts, that's going to get him on the field early. Special teams, packages, and, could it be a goal line as a fullback, or he could possibly split out wide if he's covered by a linebacker, different things like that, mismatches. He's going to find a way to get on the field to create mismatches and give you a physical presence who also has skill, as we saw with the one-handed catch today. Chris Johnson, we talked about the running backs earlier. You heard Cristobal say Chris Johnson's had a really great spring. I agree. That's what I've seen. Had a nice long run today, showed his speed. The trick with him is keeping him between the tackles as much as possible, not kicking everything outside. Chris Johnson for the Titans, no relation. He made a lot of plays inside the tackle, not running people over, but just finding the crease and going deep, or going to the house from that crowded area and separating. Didn't kick everything outside and try to outrun. I don't care how fast you are. You're not going to be outrunning fast defenses to the corner consistently. Chris Johnson is showing the ability to find creases, and then once he gets to that second level, depart with that state title speed in the 100-meter, state title speed in the 200-meter. If I had to compare him to anybody, just looking at his track numbers and his size, plus his production as a senior, Chris Johnson, the Titans version, who's from Florida, and then also Devin A-Chain from the Miami Dolphins, played for Texas A&M, had a great rookie year for the Miami Dolphins, 8 yards a carry. Chris Johnson physically is in that mold. It's not a stretch. His track times are on par with those guys. He was extremely productive as a senior. He can be that kind of guy. We saw a flash of it in the Bethune-Cookman game. Again, you saw the film here watching this podcast of that run against Bethune-Cookman. He did stuff like that in practice today. He'll do more. Can't wait to see him once the pads go on, as fully padded scrimmages, to see what he can bring. Because I think he's tougher than people think. And I think he's more of a running back than people think with that state championship, nationwide speed that he has, that ability to be nationally recognized as a sprinter on top of his football playing ability. One more guy I wanted to highlight who I believe is making tremendous strides is Jadis Richard, the Vanderbilt transfer, originally from Monroe, Louisiana, went to Vanderbilt, really as sort of an upside play. This is a guy with a lot of size. He's a good 6'1", 6'2", strong, has speed. I think he's like about a 10'9" guy in the 100 meters, but then was a very good basketball player in high school. He just he wasn't a corner. So he was more of an athlete when he got to Vanderbilt. Played a little safety, played a little nickel. Didn't get the training at cornerback necessarily until later. But you see the basketball highlights, which we're playing on this YouTube. The guy's an outstanding athlete and has good size. I think corner is a process for him as far as learning the position. But you saw him against FSU, against Keon Coleman, who's going to go to the NFL draft this month, against Johnny Wilson, also going to get drafted. He held his own just off length and athleticism. And what I think you're seeing is just gradual improvement. Lance Guidry mentioned his improvement earlier in the spring. Chevis Jackson, who's a longer cornerback, went to the NFL, has been working with Richard. There's some common ground there. And you're starting to see that steady improvement to match the physical tools and athleticism that he already has. We've seen that. I saw that today. Did a really, really nice job all throughout practice. And you had Damari Brown back in a limited role, but he's getting healthy. Robert Stafford had a nice day. So you're seeing the cornerback room get a little healthier with Brown, with you still have Richard and Porter as their starters. Brown is a starting caliber player when he's healthy, probably will be the starter at one of those spots. Michelle Powell in the nickel. then Robert Stafford, young guys like that. You're getting Ryan Mack, who'll be ready to play right away from St. Thomas. OJ Frederic, more of a developmental guy from St. Thomas. You're going to get some guys at that corner position. Demetrius Freeney, the JUCOs, making progress. I think you add a premier defensive back, whether it's a nickel, a corner, safety, hopefully more, but we'll see. Now that room's starting to look a little better. But it looks better once you have Damari Brown out there for sure. And it looks a lot better when Jadis Richard is elevating to get his game to match his physical tools. Because with his size, his speed, you could have a top caliber cornerback in the ACC. Daryl Porter, you already know, is one of the better cover corners in the ACC. Damari Brown, big recruit. You saw him lay the wood last year. A lot of talent with him, a lot of size with him. Richard is the one where I think if he gets to that consistent level at cornerback, now you got three guys. Brown could play inside in a pinch. He's a great blitzer. He's very physical. He can cover, obviously. He's almost like that big nickel, even though he's probably better as an outside guy, ultimately. I think nickel for Damari Brown makes a lot of sense because of his blitzing, his physicality, his instincts, and the fact that if he needs to cover a seam all the way down to the end zone, he has the speed. So those are the three. You haven't seen them together all spring. You're starting to get them together now. And I think that was a positive sign for the Miami Hurricanes, just being able to see their corners all on the field, plus Robert Stafford, a young guy making plays. And we talked about Robbie Washington. Throw him in the mix. You need to get that room up to speed. I think Adai did a poor job recruiting. You're seeing the results of that, but there's still some talented players. And you're hoping Chevis Jackson can juice up that room with his coaching, but also with the recruiting he's able to do. And we'll see what happens in the portal. I think you're going to see a player added. One more defensive back I want to mention, Zaquan Patterson from Chaminade. He had a couple near picks. You'd like to see him make those plays, but he was aggressive. He was jumping routes. He has tremendous length and size for the safety position. He has speed and explosiveness, tests well, and it's just an instinctual football player. You watch him against some of the national teams that Chaminade played on national TV. He was probably the best player on the field, blitzing, causing total havoc as a blitzer, tackling well, just being a physical presence, also playing special teams and making hits. This guy's a guy who's good. He's kind of like Lofton in that he's a football player. He has versatility. He has the size and physicality to play right away, and he's here making plays in spring. So if you want to project who's going to play when we suit up against Florida as a true freshman, Elijah Lofton's on that list. Zaquan Patterson's on that list. JoJo Trader and Nikar both made contested catches and one-on-ones and did some nice things in the team. Those are some guys you could potentially watch. But the fact that these guys are here in spring is a huge leg up. And the fact that they come from programs like Chaminade, like Bishop Gorman, played national games already, been developed in the weight room a bit already, they're going to help us hopefully beat the Florida Gators and get it rolling early. Because it's the day of redshirting these kind of blue chip true freshmen, that day is gone. You got to play those guys. They're going to help you win. You saw Ruben Bain was probably our best defensive player this year, true freshman. Francis Mauanoa, freshman All-America. Mark Fletcher, all the things he did. You need your true freshmen to show up, and especially the guys that are here in spring. And the fact that we're constantly talking about Elijah Lofton, guys like JoJo Trader, Nikar, Zaquan Patterson having flashes. Haven't even talked about Dylan Day. He's still doing some nice things. And Bobby Pruitt, who I mentioned on a couple of podcasts ago, he could be the best of the whole bunch, playing a lot with the first team, playing more with the first team than anybody, and looking very, very good as that strong side linebacker, that sort of linebacker / safety. His instincts, his speed, Cristobal talked about him today. He could really be a difference-making player with his unique skill set, the combination of athleticism, instincts, and then striking ability. Bobby Pruitt continues to make plays. And look, if you're hearing this saying, I've heard all this before, you're hearing it again because it's happening again, and I'm just giving it to you like it is. Guys that continue to make plays and show up consistently at that young age, those are the guys you can expect to see in Gainesville when the Hurricanes stomp the Gators. So that's the Canes Insight podcast. Appreciate you. We're coming daily. We'll be here tomorrow. The next day, practice we'll have covered every single day. And we got some surprises coming up. Stay tuned. We got a lot of surprises. If you haven't seen the bank episode from yesterday, check it out with the latest on recruiting in the portal. Like and subscribe so you're getting this content regularly. Sign up for the CanesInsight.com forum. 6.8 million posts and counting. The most active, quickly updated, addictive Canes community on the planet. If you haven't done that already, sign up today because we got just a lot of stuff coming and some surprises coming your way with the content that we're trying to put out. So see you tomorrow, and go Canes.